Hi there, I'm Ben Freed, publisher of Free $5, a free zine full of absurd fiction and poetry and art about the cognitive dissonance we're collectively experiencing here in America in 2025. A PDF copy of the first issue is available via the link down below. And I'm here today to talk about poetry and art and free speech and many other things as well. That's how poetry works. It works inclusively, taking everything into its gristmill, like language itself. Consider this the first in a series on why it's important to talk about poetry and art. Why does poetry or art matter in 2025 when the world is so full of things to be concerned with? Let's get right to the heart of the matter. Fascist clowns have taken control of our government and are destroying our free democracy. Fascism at its core is a war on language. The perpetrators of fascist campaigns throughout history understand the power of words, same as marketers and preachers and poets. Fascists undermine and weaponize words even as they claim to save you from such plots. This is how you get people claiming they were removed from Facebook because they were conservative. They were removed from Facebook or wherever because they were liars and because they were dangerous spreaders of disinformation. But they huddle under that word, conservative, which might also describe them, but it more tactically hides them within a group which doesn't like being removed from things, no matter the reason. This is also how we get people using the phrase freedom of religion to protect their bigotry and their hatred. If practicing your religion necessarily includes hatred and exclusion, well, I have news for you, that's not a religion, and you are not free. But there is good news. The good news is Ben Freed and Free $5 are here to save you. Every day, regular people read and listen to poetry, religious texts, older verse and plays and oral mythologies, centuries, millennia old, because poetry is the news that stays news. It is what binds the limitless possibility of our human consciousness to our ability to trade labor for payment, to our ability to purchase a loaf of bread, to write a message to a friend, to get a point across, to make an exchange. Those who shape language are those who shape reality. Ceci n'est pas une pipe. How much comes across in such a simple line of words? Or, this statement is false. Friends, I'll be damned if flimsy politician con men are going to do my job, a poet's job, and corner us into bad decisions because of some transparent, easily explained marketing speak with words meant to bite us on our emotional soft parts. Left and right. Though I've always considered myself left, I've never been on board with the Democratic Party from the time I was old enough to vote and pay attention. I've always thought of them as a machine built by the type of party who think our capitalist lords can be convinced to share a little with enough polite pressure. On the other hand, I've always thought of the Republican Party as the party trying to get involved in my private life as much as possible, the party trying to protect the rich as much as possible, and the party most capable of leveraging their own fetish of violence against a queer like myself. The party, despite their worship of individualism, the most likely to single out and persecute individuals for simply being so. Because of that, I've typically voted Democratic in those elections where defeating a Republican seemed vital, voting against the worst of two horrible choices. Now, here in 2025, I'm stuck feeling complicit and for too long taking part in the maintenance of this two-headed beast, waging a sham competition where the House always wins. The two-headed beast of American capitalism, the Republican and the Democratic parties. How absurd the idea that the Republican and the Democratic parties represent opposite ends of a spectrum, when the squabble they create among us is but a tool leveraged by the house. The true beast, the handful of ultra-rich who are dividing the world between themselves. How absurd the American media labeled as largely biased to the left when it is clearly owned and steered by the same house promoting the two-headed beast mega battle. A left-biased media would focus on the well-fitted relationship between capitalism and fascism. A left-biased media would not refer to the current times as unprecedented, but would focus on the very similar times Americans have already lived through and the lessons learned from the tradition of this struggle throughout American history, throughout world history. How absurd the intentional confusion sown by both parties fusing capitalism and democracy together as though they are the same thing, as if socialism and tyranny were the same thing, as if misunderstanding the distinction weren't consequential, and altogether as if studying history and learning from it was the work of those not to be trusted, studying our own history. A choice between a far-right zero-sum free market capitalism and a center-right neoliberal trickle-down capitalism is no choice at all. When do Americans get to be shareholders in the entire enterprise, currently rewarding only a few who I suspect don't really care whether red or blue wins? They certainly don't care whether you have a right to freedom of speech. Well, I think here in April in 2025, in light of American citizens being violently detained and deported based on our fascist president's dislike of dissent and protected free speech, there really is only one response. One unified gesture to our absurd emperor selling our country from under us. One golden gesture extended as much to gain a sense of perspective as it is to voice how so many of us feel, with the weight of precious metal cast into forever salutes to our president's boring evil. This is the work of Ai Weiwei and the entrance to the current exhibit of his work at SAM, the Seattle Art Museum. This isn't gold spray paint, this is solid gold. Please do yourself a favor and visit this exhibit, it's awesome. Stay tuned to this channel for more commentary and poetry on our current moment, and don't forget to get your own free copy of Free $5 at the link down below. If you're a writer, a poet, or an artist concerned with the absurdity of being expected to accept what passes for reality currently, please consider joining us. Fight fascism by starting right at home. Use your words, and like Ai Weiwei, use your hands when you have to. This has been Ben Fried. Peace out, my friends.